Budget Magnum Power 357 Magnum versus 44 Magnum. And what I have today is our Fiocchi Defense Dynamics. Our 357 Magnum is a 158 grain jacketed hollow point, rated at 1220 feet per second. Our 44 Magnum is a 240 grain semi-jacketed hollow point, rated at 1330 feet per second. Before you say anything, this is actually the only varieties that come in these particular bullet weights. You know, we can't find a semi-jacketed 158 grain or a straight jacketed 240 grain, but that is pretty typical. I've seen that a lot with 44 Magnum, where it only comes in the semi-jacketed. So I'm going to use my Smith & Wesson revolvers here, my 4-inch revolvers, my Smith & Wesson model 686 for the 357 Magnum, my Smith & Wesson model 69 for our 44 Magnum. Now I call these budget Magnum Power because they're quite a bit cheaper than, you know, a lot of rounds. Like these, the cheapest you can find these on, these 44 Magnums, are like 76 cents a round. And the cheapest you can find these 357 Magnums is 51 cents a round, which is a pretty good price, because when you think about like a good defensive round, let's say a Federal Hydroshock, a Federal Hydroshock 44 mag would cost $1.51 at the cheapest I could find it for a single round, versus 76 cents. And 357 Magnum, the cheapest Hydroshock I could find is $1.02 versus 51 cents, so half the price. And it's even cheaper than a lot of target ammo. Federal American Eagle 44 mag is $1.03 a round for 44 mag versus the 76 cents. And American Eagle 357 mag is 56 cents, and in comparison to this 51 cents for our 357 Magnum jacketed hollow point. So overall, it's not a bad price for the ammo. But I've noticed a lot of times with budget ammo, sometimes the performance isn't that good, but it might be okay because we have so much energy behind them, because 357 and 44 mag are pretty powerful. So we're going to test these. We're going to go through the chronograph, see what kind of velocity and accuracy we get at the same time. Then I'm going to do my 10% clear ballistic test. I'm going to go into plain clear ballistics to see what the best potential is of those cartridges are. You know, the best potential, we don't have any rib simulation, we don't have any denim or anything like that on there, just to see the best potential for expansion and penetration. After that, I'm going to do more of our real world simulation. I'm going to have 4 layers of denim on the first 3-inch piece that represents our pectoral muscle. You got to remember that clear ballistics, you know, 2 inches represents skin because of the elasticity of it. So it's not like, oh, this is all muscle. And clear ballistics is a half representation of flesh, essentially. And after 3 inches, we'll have a 1/4 inch medium density fiberboard to represent hitting ribs or sternum, and we'll see how they compare, more of that real world simulation. And then I am going to shoot up my steel to see what kind of practical accuracy I can get with these. So let's get started with this test. All right, our 357 Magnum 158 grain jacketed hollow point, rated at 1220 feet per second. Let's see what I actually get here. 1136, 1119, 1121, and a failure to fire. I'm going to wait just a minute here just to make sure it's not a hang fire. All right, so what I got is a very light primer strike, which would indicate a very hard primer. So I'm going to go single action on that shot to get a harder hammer strike. See if we can get a read with that. $11.20, $11.03. So we are nowhere near that 1220 feet per second rate of velocity. Don't know where they're getting those numbers. Industry standard for 357 Magnum velocity ratings is a 4-inch barrel, so we should have got that. Our 44 Magnum, this is rated at 1330 feet per second. Now the industry standard for velocity in a 44 mag is through a 6-inch barrel rather than the 4-inch barrel, so we should have less velocity than 1330 feet per second, but we'll find out. Let's see what we get here. 44 Magnum, 240 grain. No read. 1176, 1184, 1187, 1191. A lot less than rate of velocity, but I'm actually happy with this because Really, the goal for a 44 Magnum in this size range, a nice 4-inch barrel, is to get manageable recoil with a little bit less velocity, and getting something that's kind of a low end is actually not a bad thing when you're talking about what I'm looking for, which is, you know, a shootable 44 mag. So I'm okay with that. Let's hit our ballistics gel box, see what we get with these. All right, we're gonna do our best potential here. Plain clear ballistics, 357 Magnum. All right, let me hit that with our 44 Magnum now. Let's go take a look. All right, to some degree, that's pretty surprising. It almost looks like there's more damage with our 357 Magnum. Both of them have really good expansion. Our 357 mag has more of our petals peeled back, and our 44 has more of that just big mushroom, which is to be expected with the bullet styles that they are. So our 357 Magnum got really good penetration. We got about 19.5 inches of penetration. I'm not going to call that over penetration because clear ballistics is a little less dense, and you go a little bit further in this than organic gel. I'm totally fine with that. Both these had really good energy dump in the first 3 inches as well. And with our 44 mag, we got a little bit less penetration. We're right here at about 18.5 inches of penetration. So I would say both did pretty much fantastic with our plain gel shot. So let's put on our denim, put on our MDF, see how they compare that way. All right, 4 layers of denim, 3 inches of clear ballistics, a 1/4 inch medium density fiberboard. This is more of our real world simulation. Let's see what we get here with our 357 Magnum. All right, let me set that back up. We'll hit it with the 44. All right, 44 mag. Let's see what this does. Let's go take a look. All right, so a huge difference going on. A lot of penetration with our 44 mag, and we can see what's going on here with our medium density fiberboard. Our 357 mag on the bottom expanded really big. Our 44 Magnum has more of a mushrooming type expansion. The denim definitely affected the 44 mag more than the 357, and these are both going about the same velocity. Actually, the 44 is going faster, so it really is a bolt design issue here where that's going through like that. So what we got with our 357 Magnum, interesting thing is in the first 3 inches there's less energy dump with our 357 than our 44, yet our 44 didn't expand that big right away. So with our 357, a whole lot of damage, a whole bunch of everything going on. Kind of weird petals in different directions, but our penetration's good at about 20.5 inches. Again, I would not really consider that over penetration. Now our 44 mag, we had almost as good a damage, not quite. And once we get to this point here, beyond this area-ish, I kind of consider that over penetration. You know, based on some of the numbers I've seen, actually passing through an attacker, you're looking at more like, if you go through more than half of the second block, that's a possibility that's really going to happen, even with a large person. So what we're looking at here is 31 inches of penetration with our 44 Magnum. So it's not extreme over penetration. You know, I've seen 40 calibers just zip right through 2 blocks and stop in halfway through a 3rd block and stuff like that. So if this were to pass through an attacker, it doesn't necessarily mean that it would go very far, but it's still a possibility that that's too much penetration. So I'm going to judge these kind of the way that I do with a lot of 357 mag versus 44 mag, and that the 357 mag is by far a better personal defense round with this particular bullet design. But if you need a dual round that's good for personal protection, but you're also in the woods, I think our 44 mag's a little better option. I think it would be an okay option for hunting as well. So let's take a close-up look at these, and then I'm going to shoot my steel, see what kind of practical accuracy I can get with these. All right, so here's a close-up look at these bullets through our plain gel. Here's our 357 Magnum. We had pretty good performance, a lot of big petals going on there, jagged looking petals that did really well. With this, we got kind of a big old trumpet effect with our 44 Magnum, really big expansion, did a lot of damage. But when we look at going through our MDF, things changed quite a bit here and going through our Denim. Our 357 mag, I saw the same effect with our 148 grain Fiocchi, and now our 158 is doing it too, where we have this really bizarre petaling going on where it goes upward instead of straight out, which that's not necessarily a bad thing, it's just not super consistent. Now with our 44 mag, what we had going on is even after that like 31 inches, it dragged that Denim all the way through there, and that's really what prevented that expansion, just that little bit of Denim carrying that through. You know, I knew that was a effect with our jacketed hollow point for sure, but I always thought semi-jacketed did a lot better against Denim, and that wouldn't have been a problem for most 44 mags or 357 mag, but with this 44 mag, it became a bit of a problem where it clogged that up and it did not expand very well. It's still a little bigger than starting diameter, but that's certainly not fantastic expansion. So overall, I would say our 357 Magnum has kind of a passing grade here. Our 44 mag, that has a lot to be desired for that particular bullet design. So that's a close-up look at those. All right, I'm 12 yards from the target. I want to see what kind of practical shootability I can get with these. You know, a lot of people will say, oh, you can't get a follow-up shot with the 44 mag. It's impossible. It's going to fly over your head on the first shot, and then you have to bring it back down. I find that kind of interesting. I also find it kind of interesting that a lot of times people will comment on my videos where I'm doing like a chronograph session, or I'm either going single action or firing really slow, where I'll make that shot and the recoil of something like a 357 comes up to there. Like, man, you need to learn how to control that recoil, buddy. And they're not realizing the reason why I'm doing that is because I'm making really precise shots. I'm trying to not hit my chronograph. And in that situation, it's easier to not tense up to control that recoil. It's easier just to let it go. Same with making a shot in the ballistics gel. But when I'm actually shooting, you know, kind of a defensive situation, that's when I will control the recoil a little bit more. So let's see what I can do with our 357 mag. These are both pretty light loads. So let's see how I can do on the steel from 12 yards. All right, those shoot fine. Now, the impossible gun to get a follow-up shot with. Let's see what this does. It's doable. You just gotta, you know, make sure that muzzle's back down on target. You want to see that front sight before you squeeze it again. You know, not just squeeze the trigger and then squeeze it again right away. Your muzzle's going to be up. You just simply gotta bring it back down. You know, shooting rapid fire is one of those things. It's not necessarily a continual motion thing. A lot of people like to think it is, so they just keep yanking the trigger. It's more of a thing where you're doing something one time, one way, and then you're just repeating it. This way I like to think of it. So you shot pretty good. Let me back up a little bit, see what kind of accuracy I can get from a little more distance. All right, 75 yards from the target. I shouldn't have to mention it every time, but if I don't, people get in a big fit. But this is really just for fun. It's planking at this point. But, you know, SHTF situations, 357, 44 might be decent hunting rounds. And I've noticed sometimes when ammo was backed off a little bit on power, it actually shoots a little more accurately. It's probably partly due to less flinch, and also sometimes they're just loaded for accuracy. So let's see what I can do here. 357 mag. Let me go single action and see how these things shoot for me. Alright, so I think they are hitting just a little bit left for me. So I had to adjust my hold just a little bit there. Let me try some double action with these, see if I do any better. Yeah, I think sometimes that's my issue. I'm so used to shooting double action that when I go to single action, sometimes I'm not gripping it as tight. All right, 44 mag. Let me do some single action here. See how this does. Way over the target. I don't know what my issue is with those. I have no idea. I couldn't really tell where they're hitting either. I just saw a dirt move. And it's hard to tell on camera after the fact also because of camera parallax. You know, when you look at the downrange camera, it'll look like the top of the target's like touching the top of the hill. But the actual distance from the top of the target to the top of the hill is something in the vicinity of, I would say, 40 to 50 feet. So you'll actually have a phenomenon where it'll look like two bullets are impacting like a foot away from each other, but in reality they're like 10 feet apart. It's really bizarre. So let me go double action with our 44 mag, see if I can hit this way. Really high, so I'm gonna have to aim low. All right, so I fired all those shots. So yeah, they are hitting a lot higher for me than what I'm normally used to. So I'm going to leave it at that there. When they did hit the steel, they hit really hard. So again, this is just for fun. It's really hard at this distance to hit with something there. There's a little bit of flinch factor going on for me with the 44 mag, but at close range, I didn't really have any issues with it. So our overall review of this ammunition, at least 3-4-inch barrels, is that I would say our 357 Magnum was acceptable. I would say it's okay ammunition to buy. You really can't go wrong with that. You got a 4-inch barrel or longer. The expansion looked a little weird, but overall, you know, we didn't really get over penetration and we got a lot of damage going on. With our 44 Magnum, I would not class this as a self-defense cartridge per se against a person, but it would be an okay cartridge for personal defense, but it would also be an okay cartridge for hunting if you're accurate with it. So between both of these, you know, it's not a competition. We got to remember that. A lot of people think this is a competition. I'm like, this is my favorite cartridge. No, this is my favorite caliber cartridge. And this one wins and this one doesn't. And that's never been what I do when I say versus. It means in comparison to. So comparing our 357 mag to our 44 mag, again, both of them did okay, but our 357 mag I would say is acceptable for a self-defense cartridge. And our 44 mag I would say is not really that acceptable, and for the price point you could probably do a lot better for getting a better hollow point for personal defense. So that's what you get today. Interesting ammunition. I'd say it's a pretty good value, but you know, not the best performance, but our 357 mag was okay. So that's what you get today. So as always, comment, share, and like, and thanks for watching.